Hello everybody, bonjour. Welcome to the session of learning the French language. In the last session, we started with the verbs. We saw that there are two types of verbs mainly in the French language, regular and irregular. Regular verbs are verbs which have got a regularity in the conjugation. We have a formula or a pattern followed by all the verbs in that group. We saw in the last class there are three groups of verbs. First group verbs ending in ER, second group verbs ending in IR, third group verbs ending in IR as well as RE, and we also learned how to conjugate them. In continuation of that, this session we are going to see some irregular verbs. Well, every irregular verb is a problem for the learner because each verb is different, and also there isn't much to explain why it's like that. It's like that. Every verb is different. So the learner has to be familiar with the maximum number of irregular verbs. Well, there aren't a lot of irregular verbs compared to the regular verbs. As I said in the last session, majority of the verbs are regular and majority of the verbs are belonging to the first group ending in ER. But irregular verbs are important. Every verb has to be learned separately. So we will see some of the irregular verbs in the French language. I have selected a few irregular verbs which are seen frequently used in the language. The first place will go to être, the basic verb, être, to be, avoir, to have. There are two basic verbs in the French language. The next importance I will give to faire, which means to do, to make. Well, importance in the sense they have some relevance in the construction of certain sentences and in certain usages. That is why some verbs are very important. So, être, to be, we have already learned the conjugation. Avoir is to have, faire, to do, to make, voir, to see, aller, to go. I mentioned about aller in the previous session that it is the only irregular verb ending in ER, or rather all verbs ending in ER are regular except the verb aller. Venir, ending in IR, but it is not a second group IR or a third group IR, it's an irregular verb. We will see when we conjugate them why they are called irregular, because each one is different. Mettre, to put, prendre, to take. Mettre and prendre are sometimes confused as third group RE verbs. No, they are irregular, that we will see when we are learning the conjugation. Dire, to say. Vouloir, to wish or want. Pouvoir, to be able to, can. Devoir, ought to, must. This vouloir, pouvoir, devoir are quite important because they also have the role of a supporting verb many times. Like you want to say, we can do this work, or I wish to see. Two verbs will be used. Supporting verb will be vouloir, pouvoir or devoir depending on the context. Savoir is to know. Connaître is also to know. Connaître, these two verbs are taken together because of the familiarity in the meaning, but the contexts are different. Like savoir, to know in the sense, that's knowledge, information. Connaître, to know in the sense acquaintance. You say, I know Sophie, that is connaître. I know where she stays, that will be savoir, that is information. So that way, these are some of the important verbs I have chosen. Être, avoir, they are also known as supporting verbs because when we are learning present tense mainly. When we learn past tense, passé composé, or so many other tenses are based on être and avoir. So être and avoir are quite important tenses. Faire also has got certain role other than just being an ordinary verb. Aller and venir also have got the role of supporting verbs. We will see as we proceed with the different aspects of the French grammar. So we have taken a few irregular verbs which has to be learned. Now the next stage will be the conjugation. In fact, I will not have any role in explaining them because you just have to learn the conjugation. Not like the first group or the second group verbs where the formula was given and you have to follow the formula. This you just have to learn it because irregular verbs, no explanation why it is like that, it is like that. We will just see quickly the different conjugations. I will read them so that the pronunciation part is clear to you. Avoir, we have already done it. We will just do it once more. J'ai, tu as, il a, elle a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont, elles ont. Faire, to do, to make. Je fais, tu fais, il fait, elle fait. Same pronunciation. Nous faisons, vous faites, ils font, elles font. you will note that vous faites. Most of the verbs have got EZ when they come to the vous form, even irregular verbs, you will see that. But faire, vous faites. Je fais can have meanings like I do, I am doing, I make, I am making, I do make, because it has got two meanings. So, faire, you will remember an important irregular verb. Voir has got the meaning to see. Je vois, tu vois, il voit, elle voit, nous voyons, vous voyez, il voit, elle voit. See, je vois, tu vois, il voit, same pronunciation. Nous voyons, vous voyez, il voit. That END is not pronounced. Now the next important verb, aller. Aller is an important verb. Like être and avoir, aller is also an important verb because I think I said that past tense is formed based on être and avoir. Similarly, there are tenses based on aller. So, aller is an important verb. Conjugation je vais. Well, this happens to be a curiosity. Aller and why je vais? Well, only one explanation, it's irregular verb. So, we have to learn like that. Je vais, tu vas, il va, elle va, nous allons, vous allez, ils vont, elles vont. So, aller to go, je vais, I'm going. Okay. Venir, to come. Je viens, tu viens, il vient, elle vient, nous venons, vous venez, ils viennent, elles viennent. Another important verb, venir. The conjugation has to be learned. Mettre is a verb sometimes confused as a third group RE verb because you can see the conjugation. Je met, tu met, il met. But next, nous mettons, vous mettez, ils mettent. Well, it is not exactly third group because third group we learn cut RE add SS, but you can see the first conjugation METS, not double T. METS, METS, MET. So this is not a third group RE. We will take it as an irregular verb because the conjugation is different from the conjugation of third group RE verbs. We have the verb dire, to say. Je dis, tu dis, il, elle dit, nous disons, vous dites, il dit, elle dit. Like in the case of faire, here also, vous dites, not EZ. There is a general tendency, nous disons, people have a tendency to vous disez, no, this, vous dites, il dit. Okay. Prendre, to take. This also can be confused as a third group RE verb because je prends, tu prends, il prend, elle prend. It resembles the conjugation of third group RE verb. But the next one, nous prenons, vous prenez, ils prennent. Yeah. We have the next verb, that is vouloir, pouvoir, devoir. I told you these three verbs are important because they are also having a supportive nature when we are framing a sentence. Vouloir conjugate je veux, tu veux, il veut, elle veut, nous voulons, vous voulez, ils veulent, elles veulent. Pouvoir, je peux, tu peux, il peut, nous pouvons, vous pouvez, ils peuvent. Now, normally we use them in situations where one more verb will be involved, like I want to see the director, I want to see. Je veux voir. I mentioned earlier there are certain situations when we use the infinitive, that is a verb without conjugating. Now, I wish to see, already one verb is there, je veux, to see, voir. You will just write it without conjugation. So, je veux voir. Then, you can see the director at 4 o'clock. You can see. That will be, tu peux voir. Okay. Then, the next verb of that kind, it is devoir. Must. Je dois, tu dois, il, elle doit, nous devons, vous devez, ils doivent. So, I must see the director. Je dois voir. So, that is why these three verbs have to be learned properly because we need to use them in real situations with the conjugation. Savoir, we have the conjugation. Je sais, tu sais, il sait, elle sait, nous savons, vous savez, ils savent, elles savent. Then is the verb connaître, which also means to know, but to know in the sense to be acquainted with. The conjugation will be je connais, tu connais, il, elle connaît, nous connaissons, vous connaissez, ils connaissent. Well, you can understand that by now a pattern of pronunciation is there when you are reading the French verbs or the French words. See, je connais, the S is not pronounced, tu connais, il, elle connaît, the same pronunciation we have. It doesn't matter whether it's SOT at the end. Nous connaissons, here also we are not pronouncing this. Vous connaissez, ils connaissent. Okay. Well, they are some of the irregular verbs that we have taken today to know the existence as well as to become familiar with their conjugations, as they are important in the sense more frequently used. To become familiar with them, we will see a few contexts when they can be used. Suppose you want to say, we are going to the class. Okay, we check the verb. What is the verb to go? To go, it is aller. Well, conjugation of aller. Je vais, tu vas, il va, elle va, nous allons. So, nous alone. To is a, we have learned. Nous allons à la classe. That means we go to the class or we are going to the class. Then you want to say they are coming from Paris. They, il, venir is to come. Ils viennent de Paris. Now, regarding this, we are going to the class. To go is aller. But remember, we learned a verb to go out. That is sortir. So, don't have a confusion there. Sortir, third group IR verb. To go out. Aller, to go. Also, the verb partir. Partir is to leave. So, to leave, to go out, to go. Very similar in meanings, but different verbs. Okay. So, they are coming from Paris will be ils viennent de Paris. From, it is de. The is from. A, to, the, from. Okay. Then, suppose you want to say, I see your photo in the newspaper. I see your photo. Okay, that will be, well, normally sentence should be good. I saw, just to understand the present. I see your photo. Je vois, I see. Votre photo or ta photo dans le journal. I see your photo or I am seeing your photo. Je vois ta photo. Then you want to say, Marco is doing his work. Marco is equal to il. So, Marco fait son travail. Okay. Then, I take my books from the table. To take, it is prendre. I take will be je prends. My books, mes livres. Je prends mes livres. From the table, de la table. Or I am taking my books. Je prends mes livres. Okay. Another sentence. Pierre puts his bag on the table. Pierre puts his bag. Pierre. To put, the verb is mettre. Conjugation of mettre. M-E-T-S, M-E-T-S, M-E-T. Pierre mette son sac sur la table. Then, we say bonjour when the teacher enters into the class. We say bonjour. What is the verb to say? Dire. Conjugation of dire. Nous disons bonjour. Bonjour we are not translated, just keep the same. Nous disons bonjour when, it is quand. For when in French the word is quand. Quand le professeur entre dans la classe. We say bonjour when the teacher enters the class. Okay. Then you say he wants a green pen. He wants, il veut. A green pen will be a stylo where? Well, I hope you remember in French the adjective color comes after the noun. English you say green pen, French you will have to say stylo, pen, green if you take the literal translation. So, il veut un stylo where? She can finish her work. Okay, she can. I told you to can is pouvoir, an important verb. So, elle peut finir son travail. After elle peut, you write finir without conjugating it. That is infinitive, the unconjugated form. After one verb, second verb will be in the infinitive. So, elle peut finir son travail. Then, you must go out now. You must. Tu dois. To go out, it is sortir. Tu dois sortir. You can see that the verb is not conjugated because after one verb, the second verb need not be conjugated. So, tu dois sortir. You must go out now. So, I told you about the verb vouloir, pouvoir, devoir. They are used like sort of supporting verbs. So, after those three verbs, if you have another verb, that verb will be in the unconjugated form, the infinitive. You write the infinitive without conjugating them. We have seen the case there. Now, we will take situations where the savoir can be used. You say, I don't know her name. Je ne sais pas son nom. Then, we know well the streets of Paris. We know well that is street. We know savons bien. The verb connaître means to know in the sense to be acquainted with. Savoir, to know. The difference between the people have a confusion between these two verbs. I will give an example. Suppose you say, I know Marco. I know where he stays. Well, I know Marco will be je connais Marco. The sense I know, in the sense I am familiar with Marco, I am acquainted with Marco. I know where he lives, where he is staying. Je sais où il habite. So where he is staying, that is an information, knowledge. That will be savoir. And I know Marco, that is an acquaintance, familiarity. That will be je connais Marco. Okay. So we have had a exposure of a few irregular verbs, and with this we can say that we are familiar with most of the verbs in the French language. Of course, we will come across new verbs now and in different situations. So the basic rule will be like that. We will have to see whether it's a regular or irregular. If it is irregular, you have to learn the conjugation. There is no other way. But if it's a regular verb, the next option will be you have to see whether it is first group, second group or third group. Well, that is not easy to identify whether it's regular or irregular seeing at it, but from the conjugation you can understand. But regarding the ER verbs, you can be very sure any ER verb you come across, it will be a regular first group verb, because there is only one ER verb which is irregular that you have already studied, that is aller. So before we wind up this session of verbs, I would like to mention another type of verbs which exist in the French language, and not very familiar with the English usages. It sometimes creates a confusion. You come across it, for example, when you introduce yourself, you will say je m'appelle so and so, that is je m'appelle. Je m'appelle in the, that's how you say the name. Like suppose a person, his name is Marco, he will say je m'appelle Marco. Then your name is Marco, tu t'appelles Marco. Well, je m'appelle means, if you take a literal translation, it means I call myself. Now, they all come in a category of verbs known as pronominal verbs. That is what we will be discussing now, pronominal verbs. Some of the common pronominal verbs you can see. Actually, we would say that pronominal verbs are of two types, reflexive and reciproc. Anyway, I am not going into the details of that, just identifying what a pronominal verb is. You can look here in the display. S'appeler is to call oneself. Se réveiller, to wake up. It actually means to wake up oneself, but then we give the meaning as just to wake up. I'll explain the difference. Réveiller means to wake up. Like suppose the child is sleeping, mother wakes up the child. That will be réveiller. Something important is that all the verbs that I have listed here, they begin with SC, but they can exist without SC also. The meaning will be slightly different. Now, to wake up, the mother wakes up the child. The mother does the action of waking up the child. The action goes from the mother to the child. That will be réveiller, not se won't be there. But suppose that I say I wake up at 6 o'clock, that is I am waking up myself. Then we use se réveille, or he wakes up himself, will be il se réveille. So that is the difference. When the action done by the subject falls back on the subject, it will be a pronominal verb. So se réveiller, to wake up. Se lever, to get up. Se laver, to wash. Laver is to wash. Se laver will be to wash oneself. Se rasser, rasser to shave. Se rasser to shave oneself. Difference is if one person is shaving, the other person will be rasser, but then you are shaving yourself, will be se rasser. Then se coucher is to go to bed. S'habiller is to dress. Well, I am dressing myself. You are dressing yourself. That is the context that it is used. Se repose is to take rest. Se maquiller, that is to put the makeup. Se brosser, to brush. S'endormir, to fall asleep. S'informer is to get the information. Now, all these verbs you can see begins with SC, and most of them are ER verbs. Most of the pronominal verbs are ending in ER. So the conjugation will be like ER verbs only, but the situation will be different. You have on the slide the conjugation of the verb se réveiller, je me réveille, tu te réveilles, il or elle se réveille, nous nous réveillons, vous vous réveillez, il or elle se réveille. So the literal translation will be I wake up myself, but when we are translating in English, this is not needed. In English, you say this morning I woke up at 6 o'clock, but French you specify whether you woke up by yourself or something or someone woke you up. So that is the difference. Most of these verbs can exist by themselves. I mean without the sir. But when it is an action which falls back on the subject, we use a pronominal verb. So all these verbs, we will have se in the infinitive and you conjugate them with je, me, tuta, ilse, else, nu, vu, vu, ilse. So sometimes it is a confusion if this is not explained. The subject is repeated twice, like nu, reveillon. Well, that is because the verb is of that nature that the action is falling back on the subject. It's called a pronominal verb. So the explanation of a pronominal verb is that a pronominal verb is a verb conjugated with two pronouns of the same person. Like je, me, réveille. Je, I, me is me. Je, me, réveille. I wake up myself. All these verbs are conjugated like that. That is the most common used verb will be je m'appelle. A person will say, introduce himself or herself. Je m'appelle. There the literal translation will be I call myself so and so. That is how it is a pronominal verb is used there. So all these verbs, the conjugation will not be a problem because you can see that they are all ER verbs. You conjugate them using the formula of ER verbs. Cut ER, add E, ES, E, ONS, EZ, ENT. That is a formula for conjugating ER verb. Only sandormir will be an exception here. Well, sandormir is conjugated like dormir. So endors, endors, endort, like that, to fall asleep. Sandormir means to fall asleep. Otherwise, the difference between normal verb and a pronominal verb is that pronominal verb we will conjugate it with je, me, tuta, ilse, etc. Now, the situation we use a pronominal verb is when the action is falling back on the subject. A very easily understandable explanation will be verbs like se réveiller or s'habiller. I dress myself. Well, for an occasion, if somebody else is dressing me or the mother dresses the child, that will be just habiller. But the child is dressing herself or himself will be se habiller. That is when pronominal verbs are used. So, with this, we come to an end of our session of the verbs. We have seen regular verbs, irregular verbs, and also we have had a mention of pronominal verbs. There are more types of verbs or verbs with exceptions, which we need not go at the introductory level. As a general introduction over the verbs, we have covered almost all the important verbs that we use in different situations. Merci. Thank you.